Camera has on.
Right.
There must be serious code issues with that food code. Just trying to keep up with what's going on, you know?
I just got a text from Vicky.
She told me that she was going to guilt him. Did she tell you that too?
Going to what?
Guilt him
Guilt him.
for not being here.
Oh, shit, did you see it? Did she send you a text?
No, I don't think she's myself.
That's like Jamie, from Service Specialties. I see him all the time.
Yeah, I
He
called
goes
him.
and pretty much eats dinner every night at Brick House.
Yeah,
He
he told me he's like.
He's literally a regular. I walk in, I say that night with Brian Cole, who's, and Corey, they own it for a manager. We were just out looking at
That is a week
pipe,
effort.
no, it's a sinkhole, and it's probably a pipe, and old car, you know.
Gonna wait
So
for
we're
the
just,
sister.
hey, funny, you guys.
You can sit up here with us.
Maybe it was
And I'm like,
cigarettes.
and they're like, well, I'm like, these guys are here every night, and they're like, in the summer, his wife, is like, he's here 2 or 3 nights a week.
I sit up there and have to keep-
I'm like, for me, it's simple, all the way home, stop and grab a half dozen wings or something, burger.
Rule number one of surviving zombies.
It's like,
It's a lot easier stopping, if you're by yourself.
right, just stop and,
You think?
I usually find it's every time.
He needs to start walking with Vicky and Clancy 5 miles a day.
Hey, she did dinner, I said, come call Tracy. I'm at 11:30, it's cold. She's in bed, big, so leave it in the fridge.
I didn't know. We wanted to talk about.
Yeah, actually, that's very good, because that'll stop the doors from opening to begin with.
That's all.
So then we don't even, yeah.
Right?
All
The
right, you got it.
problem is that this is for cutting the street,
Yeah.
but they should still get a permit to, you know.
Microtransaction.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, because you can fall into that road from the premises you're going on the left, you work on the right.
These are some
All
of
the
the
utilities are in right away by permission, so that's where you modify it. The municipality has to give them permission to do anything because they're utilities in your right away. So when they're saying, because they're microservices, they don't want a permit, because they're not cutting.
They're not saying that.
Oh,
We were saying we need to figure out what the case is. It's not a cut and
It's not
dry.
like a UGI street, you know, 3 days in a row.
Well, if they do enough of the odds are they're gonna go through at least 2 service levels of some sort.
But even people that are doing something in the plan restrict,
Right, Chris?
permit.
This is the right way.
I mean, we could probably go through it and he doesn't necessarily need to be
Right,
here
still
for.
right.
It's 12:01, sorry for the tardiness. Let's begin the, let's start the meeting. Melissa, roll call.
Steve Brenner,
Here.
Steve Dirk,
Here.
Bill Jackson, Fred Vogel will be absent, and Dave Reeser.
Here.
Okay. Any public comment pertaining to the infrastructure committee?
Yeah, I have one. Since I have, was the only council person, I think that's been living through the street deal. I just
To
wanted,
be clear, what's the deal you're talking about?
Garfield,
Okay.
repainting, but everybody else is on the second phase of that. I just wanted to opine that Haynes and Kibble House and UGI, all the contractors were just incredible, really helpful, courteous. They did everything they could to make things go really easily. The one comment that we did get was a lot of communication from the borough was slow. Some of the guys driving around, Earl did an unbelievable job, Dan Orman did a great job. They were always there every day, checking everything out, responding to questions, things like that. The question came up, instead of having to drop off mail to people in that area, is there any way we can use our call system to identify the area that's being affected? And to the extent we need to send a note out that we'll be late today, or we're doing something Wednesday instead of Thursday, that you could pop that out in a phone.
Not everybody signed up for that. I mean, if you're talking about the reverse 911 system, Code Red, not everybody signed up for that.
Well, maybe we could find out who didn't sign up, and if everybody did, use it.
We've actually talked to Tom Boucher about that pretty extensively, just for all borough-related issues. It's almost impossible to do, and you can't force people to sign up for it.
Well, I'm just saying if we.
And you must sign up, right?
No, you don't have
I
to.
mean, In order to use it,
Yes.
you have to sign up.
That's right.
Although, Ron, there was a lot of communication, I thought, more than usual there.
All I can tell you is, people didn't know when this was starting, when that was starting, and I was not in any
When
position.
they were notified by literally hand-delivered mail.
All I can say is that that's, the feedback was inaccurate, ineffective, and to the extent that there would be a way. Now, if you can't use it, then there's no sense discussing it. And it's sort of-
Yeah, the one thing with delay could simply be weather. I mean, if it rained or had weather delay, things may shift a couple
Look, I
days
told
here and
them,
there.
everybody got curbing, information, and then when the curbing was done, they got a letter that said, hey, the worst part's over, we're coming in for the final, final work. It'll start, on a Tuesday, and then the day after we handed them out, H&K says, whoops, we're not coming that Tuesday, we're waiting a week. Sent out hand-delivered a second letter saying, oh, we're changing the date to the following week, so I don't know what other
Well, that's
communication I
exactly
can
my
get.
point. If it changes that fast and you have a 911 system, you can push
Yeah.
a button for 200 houses. You don't have to send somebody that's making a lot of money, walk around and deliver mail every day because there's a mistake or a miscue or somebody can't do something. Now, if it doesn't, if it's not available, maybe we should tell our residents it's available for this type of service too. You might want to know this, or you may sign up for it. So, but if we can't do it, then there's no sense talking about it. If we can do it, we should make an effort to see if they want to sign up for it. And if they don't, and you only have 12 out of 200, then you keep delivering the mail. If not, you push a button. Just a thought.
I agree with his suggestion. I think we should at least, even if if not everybody signed up, if some people signed up, it's an extra way to do it. We can also use, which is free, I assume, our email system. Again, even if nobody, not so many people signed up, we can use that. The more we use, the more people will know. But I'm here to talk about something else. This is a situation, our curbing was done on Cardinal Road and changed, a few curbs were changed. However, I don't know, a few months ago, I wrote Jim about this curb in front of the Cullen House across the street from us. This is visibly a damaged curb. To me, it's no question. You can visibly see that it's sunk. And that was fixed sometimes, at the previous asphalt paving. So I don't understand why this was not marked for repairs. You can also see, and I will submit this in writing to Melissa to be attached as comments. You can see here that the distance was so high between the two curbs that the snowplow banged onto this and chipped the corner of the curb, of this curb right here. You can see it's visible. So we're damaging our snowplow. So, but again, I don't know. To me, it makes no sense not to replace something like this and go ahead with asphalt. Makes absolutely no sense. Now, talking about regulations, using a straight edge, and I put a straight edge over it, it goes down 3 inches, and this is just not even considering that bump over here, because my straight edge was not long enough. So it's more than that. And the bump from one curb to another is more than 2 inches. I have further other pictures that I took, I didn't print them all, that I took with a level, and again, you can see that the jump between the two curves is 2 inches. And like I said, I don't understand why we would go ahead and again, we seem to have different standards, but nevertheless, why would we go ahead with a brand new paving and not fix something like this? It's unsightly to say the least, and it just looks like a poor job in the end. Brand new asphalt with a damaged curb. So that's one thing. The other thing, just to let you know, the water still, I didn't have time to pull out my filter. My filter is dirty again, muddy, whatever. So we continue to have that problem. Granted, the smell was not there in the past, let's say, month or so, but that smell comes and goes. And we have not found a way to determine what the smell is. I want to answer to Jim last time when I said something about the smell. He said it's chlorine. I did check from time to that, the chlorine, because those strips have chlorine in them, and there is no increase in chlorine levels. So the smell is not from chlorine. The chlorine level is the same, with smell and without smell. And the smell is not chlorine. So we still do not have an answer, a straight answer. Other for me to pay, I went and looked, pay $600 to have this water tested, to find out what the heck is there. I don't know. The smell is there. We're not crazy. I can bring you a sample if you want. You can go and have it at your tap. You don't have to wait for my tap. Again, this is, I will bring a picture from my filter. I will attach it to this report. Thank you.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You said two things there that I would prefer to get on your camera. You said we have different standards. What are those two? What are the different standards?
Because other curbs were replaced on the street, and this curb was not
So there's
replaced.
what's the standard that is different?
So we applied the rules for certain residents, and for other residents,
So
we have not.
you're saying that we pick our residents that we want to pick on every time?
I'm not saying, but it looks like that.
Okay, fair.
Fair?
And
Yeah.
then, just a side note, my father had his water tested down in Cape May, and I promise you it wasn't anywhere near $600. We're not even close.
I did ask,
Not a whole conversation, just a little help, to maybe go somewhere.
well, there are tests and tests. You can test for $20.
You're right. There you
Okay,
go.
so 600 is a professional testing that will look for what is not,
All
for
good.
things.
Professional testing was done on my father's water too, and it wasn't $600.
And
Okay.
again, depends what you're looking for. There are many tests that you can have. But when you don't know what you're looking for, it's
If we're looking-
expensive.
If we're looking for moon rocks, it's gonna be expensive. All right.
Well, if it smells, I think it's a good reason to look for it.
Moving on. Do you wanna talk, do we have anything to talk about the service electric piece?
There's no update on that. We're waiting to receive follow-up communication from Service Electric on, the draft of their review.
Mr. Burke's Water Authority. It's Chrissy?
I just want to give you a heads up, we have a half a year in our budget, just had a meeting last week, and, our sales are down for a couple of reasons. One, apparently Shillington is, correcting their system, they used to have like a 20% loss, well now it's a lot less than that.
Good for
Anyway.
them.
And the other problem is we're in the hospital, we cannot get any answer on that. So the bottom line is, so our sales are down because of those two things. And we're getting killed by chemicals and electricity. The chemical guys come in and say, we have a contract for $10 a pound, just as an example. They'll come in and say it's gonna be $14.50. Well, wait, we have a contract. No, it's $14.50. I don't know how the hell they can do that, but I guess they're doing it. So the chemicals are killing us. So just a forewarning at the year, we're having a rough year. Operations wise, we're doing well. And the filter room renovations, I think that's moved back to September now because of problem getting materials, equipment, what have you. Just a heads up, don't worry about it, but I'm concerned about it.
Did they make any progress with that meeting we had with them about that? Was that a survey?
The emergency, the water under the bridge.
Jim and I'll speak to that.
Yeah, Jim can answer that.
Just to follow the Westbrook's, with the rates that you're presently charging, are you covering our costs?
Yes, 6 months in, we're about $10,000, give or take, which isn't bad. but typically at this time of the year, we're gonna be 100,000 or more with little padding. We have to build up for adjustments at the year end and so forth. So in that respect, we're meeting our costs, but it's not as much as we'd like to put in reserve.
Yeah, I understand, okay.
That's all I have on that.
Jim, you wanna talk about that? That in here or somewhere else?
We can talk about it. Darrell Jenkins from SSM, is a key figure in this discussion, and there seems to be a problem getting a hold of him or getting him to respond to Jim or to me.
Really?
So I'm gonna reach out to Chip to say, Jim's left three
Three
voicemails.
voicemails, and then I
Man,
emailed him and
I don't-
copied Jim, and that's been right after the meeting, I called Darrell about the pressure test that we
Right.
talked about.
Right.
And then Jim got me all the flow meter readings, or from the hydrant test. I sent them over to Darrell, he said he was gonna get it together, get back in touch with us. And then a couple weeks went by, we didn't hear, Jim and I met about something else, and I called him 3 weeks ago, last week twice, and emailed him beginning last week, and then Jim called him again last week. And
He
nothing.
was at our meeting last week, that's interesting. Yeah, work through Chip,
Yeah.
Chip might be able to help you on that.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was on vacation or something, because
It wasn't last
no
Monday.
response, but.
It wasn't last Monday. I don't know what the schedule is.
We don't have the update on the modeling that would tell us, so the modeling that's supposed to be done will tell us if we lose a interconnect at any location in the borough, and then there's all these different interconnects that Jim has to manually open to feed, will tell us what areas we would, what pressure we'd have in the different areas, and then where might not have any water if a certain line, segment went out. This is, and then separate from that is dealing with the Rawa interconnect across the Route 12 bridge. That's more of a long-term construction item, that one. The first thing was to look at the impact of this study and then make sure that what everyone's thinking that that's a vital interconnect, that if, you know, that's not gonna be a $50,000 repair, that's hundreds of thousands. To make sure that we need to spend the money to redo that interconnect. Which we all think we do, but let's make sure.
It's just concerning to me in that when you do this shutdown, and we talked about it 2-3 months ago, to have time to discuss it, and we're slow, no, we're not running out of time, but if we need to make some adjustments, time is ticking.
Yeah, we picked up a little time because of September. but you're
Oh,
right.
pushed off a month
That's
now?
not very much time.
Did it push off from August to September now? The shutdown?
Yeah, that's what they're saying, September.
And how long was the shutdown again?
Well, they were gonna shut it down for hours at a time. If they do 2 things at a time, they were gonna do 4 or 6. We suggested, why don't you do 2 at a time? So you're only talking hours, I think. But, you know, when you start banging, taking stuff apart, you just don't know what's gonna happen sometimes.
Something can go wrong.
It'll go wrong,
It
yeah.
will go wrong.
Usually does.
So, right, we're just being on the safe side, and we hope nothing goes wrong, but, you know.
So if it goes as planned, my understanding from Chip and Darrell from talking before was there'll be enough in the tanks
Yes,
to cover it. The problem
Yes.
is if it goes outside of
That's-
that
exactly.
4-hour time period, we
exactly.
could be getting a thing where there's not enough volume and the tank level's so low, the pressure's so low, where there's even water in the tank, but still can't feed some of the higher elevation parts of the borough.
So we'll just keep those tanks as full as we can, closer to the time, because obviously we'll do what we can to help facilitate this.
Did they ever look at the Clearwell test they were gonna do?
You know, we haven't talked about the
I
Clear
talked
Valley.
to Chip about that briefly. They can get water wherever it was coming from, but it's not enough volume or pressure to keep the plant running correct. They can bring in water, but the output is more than the input using
Ah.
that, so he doesn't think it's gonna work.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the Clear Well
Because that was the ultimate answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could bypass and just pull out the Clearwell
at all. Right,
for,
right.
then that would, no matter what you did, you would always have the
Yeah.
volume.
Has the fire department been briefed on this
No,
project?
not at this point.
We don't have
We
enough
gotta know
details.
more, you know.
Because they clearly should be
Yeah.
made aware of the schedule
Yeah.
and potential consequences.
Well, it's pushed off a month since we met a month ago, so
Right.
it was supposed to be
Lord knows,
mid-August.
you know.
try bringing up fire police then. That's a good point.
Get it on their calendar.
So,
Anything else water related? Well,
The only thing I would have is, I think I mentioned this at the previous meeting. We are in the process, this is the 5th year, I think, of changing out older style residential water meters for the newer style residential water meters. And they have one more, the contractor has one more day yet. It's hard getting 100% of the people to make appointments to get their meter changed, but we're up to about 300 new meters this year. We'll do about 300 or 400 again next year.
I don't know exactly where we are.
yeah, I'm not either. I made
If we're underwater
Let's get
though, 7A, the 2022 water main replacement, I had a call with, Colleen, Terry, and Kathy Bruder last week about upcoming grant opportunities, one of them being H2O, and I explained what happened with the 2022 project and asked, even though we've done all the engineering and everything, would that potentially be a viable project to apply for funding? And they believe the answer is yes. We couldn't go after engineering costs because we've already done the engineering. Backup options, those two specific grant programs, H2O, and there's like another water sewer one. Any municipal project for repair, replacement, or new construction of storm sewer, sanitary sewer, or water is eligible. So, I mean, we either have enough projects in the pipeline, no pun intended, or coming up that we would be starting engineering on for next year that I think we'll have plenty of options to pick from for submission.
Great.
So I'll circle to the two of you when it's time to get that stuff together.
Since I skipped 6, we'll keep going on water. The water, we talked about the Wawa water backup, the PAW rate adjustment.
There's really, I mean, I shared at last week's council meeting the response I received from Pennsylvania American, which they're
Saw
saying.
there's something in the paper about, is there a lawsuit in the paper?
They were advertising for public hearings,
Oh, okay.
because you could call in for a public hearing, but what's your opinion about the rate hike?
Okay, now we're done with water. Go back to number 6, zoning and codes report.
So you should have all received a copy of my report. I unfortunately did not get the full summary of the citations that were paid from Judge Taylor's office this month. So while we collected $1,300 in fees, I have no idea what specific properties they were for. But still, that's a pretty substantial amount if you look at what was collected earlier in the year. Updates I have on the actual report itself. 17 Bristol Court. The weeds have been cut. The property owner reached out about a week ago and is working on a long-term door replacement. Like everything else, the door's back ordered and won't show up for probably 5 to 6 months. So I just requested proof of purchase and something stating that the delivery date is pushed out and that one will stay pending. 1527 Meadowlark, DeVolt's now cutting the grass at that property as well as at 51 Y Missing Hills Boulevard. Those are the only updates I
What
have.
was that address again?
1527 Meadowlark or 51 Y Missing Hills.
The Meadowlark one.
Oh, one other thing I wanted to note, 35 Dorchester Drive, there's actually 2 RVs at this property, one parked in the street, one parked in the grass. Based off of contact the police department had with those RV occupants last week, it appeared that people are living in both of them. So there's 2 separate issues going on here. One, for zoning, you can only have 1 recreational vehicle on a property and it has to be parked on a paved surface, so the RV is parked in the grass. The section about you can't live out of an RV actually comes out of our traffic ordinance. So when Kraft brought that to my attention last week, I talked to Chief Phillips to make sure he was okay with Kraft enforcing both ordinances, which he said he would actually prefer it be handled that way. So a second notice was issued on Friday for the living in the RV.
You give a time limit on that?
Zoning is an automatic 30-day compliance period. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the time frame would be in the traffic ordinance, but I'm guessing probably 5 to 15 days max.
The 30-day period, would that be per location or per RV? So if they decided to move their RV to another person's front yard?
Per property, because the enforcement notice goes to the property owner, it's per the tax parcel ID number, so as soon as the violation's abated on one property, if it moves to another, that enforcement notice is not transferable since it's identified by a specific property.
And the borough's still cutting the grass at the Sheraton,
The Crown Plaza, yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Sure. So we've not heard from them at all?
The only potential good news I have, I think we talked about this at Economic Development, is there's potentially a party interested in buying it from Veteran Services, and I gave John Buccino the contact information for Veteran Services in the hopes that he can connect the two entities.
So what do we do, just keep building it and hoping they pay it at some point?
No, we bill it till the end of the season, and then once we know grass is done for the year, anybody that has outstanding mowing invoices, we lien the property.
Could I ask a question on the lanes, alleys, whatever you like to affectionately call them? When the property line is identified on the lane, which I guess is the end of the concrete on either side, is the homeowner permitted to put, is the homeowner prohibited from any type of material that they can put there? Because just recently, in one of the areas, behind the boulevard, in the Garfield area, there were giant rocks, and they're all right at the edge of the concrete, which I can just envision giant rocks in the snowplow going down that area, and about 100 feet up, there's another section from the concrete end of what would appear to be the identified area of the lane. To the left, toward the homeowner's property, it looks like that Jim had the Parks and Rec guys put all the wood from taking down 2 trees in the backyard, and that's been there for months. And I don't know if that's okay or it's not okay, just a question. Because if we're looking at this kind of stuff, it doesn't look very cool, but if you're allowed to put a tree's worth of logs back there, I guess you can do that.
Well, this is the wood thing.
In the alley or on the property?
Well, it's on the that's what I'm saying. Here's the end of the concrete, but from here in onto the property, there's actually a fence here, or behind the fence, which looks like it's not on the property, but clearly it is. If the property line is the concrete, there's a giant, I mean, anything you didn't want is there.
Well, all I'm getting at, it wasn't anything we would go
No,
on
no.
the property.
Well,
You
no,
say
I-
Park and Rec guys, I'm like.
Well, the only reason I'm asking is because it's kind of unsightly, but if you're allowed to have unsightly things because they're yours and it's private property, then so be it.
I mean,
The rocks,
we can have Kraft take a look at it, but if the wood's stacked and kept in
it's
an
not
orderly.
stacked, it's
Yeah,
unstacked.
That's what I was gonna say, they're allowed to have like a firewood pile if
Well,
it's.
if you drive by there, you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, I don't care if you can
What's
have
the
it.
address?
Well, it's in the 1300 block behind,
Between Reading and Garfield.
between Reading and Reading Boulevard and Garfield. And right down the street as well, right before the stop sign, is the home that just put these giant rocks in there. I don't think that is consistent with plowing that area. Those rocks are gonna go pretty fast.
Well, we do damage, and if we have a big snowstorm, we do a lot of damage to people's stuff in alleys.
All right,
Just a comment, Barbara and I walk a lot through alleys, and it's interesting, some of the properties, not everybody takes care of their properties like we do, okay? And it's not necessarily against regulations, but it's just they aren't very tidy or whatever you wanna call it with their properties, so, yeah, but it might not be against regulations. Right.
As I said, I don't know, but if you haven't seen it, and you look at it and say, they're good to go. I mean,
Alright, take a look at it. Perfect. We already did 7, so down to 8, sanitary sewer.
Sewer Specialties has been in town for few weeks. We have not gotten a payment application yet. But he continues to work. The only other thing I wanted to mention, that at some point, if you remember, a few months back, Spring Township put some sewer meters in their West Lawn interceptor line, and I'm imagining at some point they're gonna come to us with some results. I haven't heard anything. And tell us how much rainwater of ours is getting into their pipe or something along those lines. I just keep waiting for that phone call.
Anything new on the pump design, pump station, same old, same old?
I was supposed to have the final drawings from the control, manufacturer that's building the building and the controls for the new pump station Friday afternoon, but I haven't gotten them yet. So, that's the one we talked about, the lead light. We're gonna get pricing, we'll have it for next month's meeting, but we're thinking with the lead time on these, we can buy the pumps and the controls and the building, all the major equipment through CoStars. That way, that 6-month lead time to have that manufactured, then allows us to bid it out to the contractor who would do the installation. So we've done CoStars before, we've obviously bid lots of things before, but this would kind of be, we would buy the major equipment through CoStars because of the lead time on this, and then put out the public bid, the installation and startup of the equipment. It's something we can talk about in detail next month when we should have the detailed quotes before all the equipment, but I just kind of,
We still won't have to pay for it till 2024 or 2023.
2023, right, still be paid for in 23, we just, and actually, you save the markup of the contractor by doing it that way. You know, then the cons are Jim and I have to like fight if something's not right, because the contractor's gonna say, well, I didn't buy the equipment, but we can deal with that. But normally, we like to just package it all with the contractor, but with the long lead times now, this is one we may be wanting to do, that we want to consider doing it that way.
So we'll do more discussion on that at the August meeting.
Yeah. Okay. But otherwise, everything on that's on the schedule.
Streets?
The sidewalk program will go right to council in August. It got delayed a little bit because we added those handicap ramps over in Wyomissing Hills to the package. And we do have a payment app from H&K, payment app number 1, for $209,414.19. And that is, the majority of that is the microsurfacing work they've already done and concrete work. That's the majority of it.
And that was all this other stuff you sent to us in this memorandum.
Yeah, the payment app memorandum.
Okay. So we need a recommendation to send to council, payment application number 1 to H&K Group in the amount of $209,414.19.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move it on to council. Okay, so we're good there. Cannon bikes, or the bike sharing station? Michelle?
That's just an update. Rental income for the month of June totaled $1,200. The bike repair stations came in a couple weeks ago. They're at the Public Works garage until staff is not tied up on other projects and has time to install them. Again, one's going West Riding, Quarry Soccer Field, and at the roundabout in front of the medical school. Same places as the bike sharing stations.
How long does it take to put in a repair station?
I don't know, I haven't even looked at it, they're in a box.
We installed the one by the pool a couple of years ago. I think that was 2019, and I want to say it took like 2 hours
Yeah,
tops.
if that's all it is, that seems pretty simple.
It's really just pouring a concrete pad and then putting it on there, mounting it.
Have there been any issues of bikes disappearing or anything like that?
I am happy to report that in the 2 months and 1 week that this program has been up and running, there has not been a glitch, any customer service issues that Tandem wasn't able to take care of. They rebalance the bikes every 2 weeks, they come out and service them every 2 weeks. I mean, I wanted completely hands off because we don't have time to deal with bikes, and it's been completely hands off.
No,
And
theft of vandalism. Great.
The one that's roundabout, there's only every 2 or 3 plates in it. They must use them fairly frequently.
I think
Yes.
Teleflex employees use them a lot too.
Okay. That makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. Cambridge Avenue stream work, I saw I guess the permit's in,
Well, one of the 3.
1 of 3.
In typical PennDOT land, you have to get the environmental clearance, then we have to get the structural clearance, then we have to get the right-of-way clearance on all the ground that we own. Very odd. But they won't process the next one until the first one is approved, so the environmental has been reviewed by our project consultant at PennDOT, she says everything's fine with it, but now it's, what's it been, Michelle, 5 weeks now since it was submitted to the internal PennDOT
Yeah.
group? So it just has to bounce around there and hopefully be signed off on that we can then submit the next phase. She already has our draft of our right-of-way documents that she reviews everything in advance before you submit it formally, so.
Okay.
I think on a timing standpoint, we told them originally we wanted to do the bridge and the culvert in the summer of '22, and they laughed at us and said we might be able to bid it in the spring of '23 by the time they got through their clearances.
I see on both the pedestrian bridge and Cambridge Avenue culvert, we have a limited time that we can do it. I assume that's for some kind of
Trout.
fish or something, yeah.
Class A trout waters.
Fair.
That Cambridge culvert is becoming a little critical in that the pipe, we're afraid to take a mower over that pipe now. It's deteriorated so much, so the sooner that can happen, the better.
Do you really wanna do that at this point?
I was saying, Michelle, could we substitute another one of our projects, but I don't think we want to go backwards through the PennDOT clearances again.
No, I'm afraid to do that. Anything else on the bridge, pedestrian bridge?
No, everything else for both of those projects is ready to go to bid once we have all the PennDOT clearances.
Sorry, I'm just taking a note. All right, green light go, do we have anything to discuss on the 18 or the 19 for that matter?
Do we have to discuss that, or is that just like the dollar figure thing?
They approved it last week.
Ah,
So
okay.
we're
Right,
good.
we approved it, but anything else to discuss?
Then, okay.
And the 19, same boat? We
Yeah.
approved it.
Yep.
Park Road Bridge,
That's just a reminder, it's staying on the agenda as a reminder that, PennDOT said that they were gonna paint it and to date have not.
can't believe it.
Right?
Library facilities update, nothing new there.
No. Council approved the
Right.
payment last week of the first
It's on the
40,000.
agenda, just make sure we're talking about it. Delays in the truck delivery, I know we talked about that in the past, anything new to there?
No.
Special infrastructure meeting, we have on the agenda for September 19th.
Yep.
That's gonna be after the September infrastructure meeting.
Correct.
Or is it part of, okay, it'll just be the end of the last part.
The last agenda item.
Okay, great. Park Road and Parkside Drive North Crosswalk. I wanted to drive by that this morning and I forgot.
There's a picture I
There it
took
is.
this morning. Dean Murray from West Riding reached out to me last week. He actually wanted to be at this meeting, but he is on vacation this week. West Riding has received a few requests from residents about the possibility of installing a crosswalk going north-south across Parkside Drive North and east-west across Park Road South, from the West Riding side into the Wyomissing side. Good news, the 2 curb cuts here, the ramps are already ADA compliant. West Riding has the paint and the equipment to paint the lines, they just asked that whatever the total cost be to install them, there be some type of cost sharing. I had Chief Phillips review this, he has no concerns with crosswalk being installed at either location. I questioned installing a crosswalk here when there's no sidewalk across the street.
Yeah,
That's West Riding, so we honestly have no say in what they decide to do there. The municipal boundary line is pretty much right here.
Is there any requirement to have curb ramp if you put a crosswalk in?
It's not our municipality.
No, but I
So
don't
is it
want.
a crosswalk?
Yes, there
or
is.
a
If you put a painted crosswalk in, you have to have a curb accessible ramp on both sides.
I raised that point to Dean just as an FYI, like, why would you wanna put a crosswalk where there's no curb ramp and there's no sidewalk?
Is there a ramp left for the pole?
There's one here,
No, on our side.
out here.
Yeah, on this side
On
there
the
is.
left, is that pole?
Here,
Yeah,
hold on, let me go back to,
because that one doesn't,
The other side
that
of the
one's
street.
lining you up the wrong, out in the middle of the intersection.
Right.
They have to be, those ramps should point straight along across the sidewalk. And the dome should be, depending on which way it opens, parallel or
so,
perpendicular.
the pictures I sent to Spencer weren't part of the attached documents.
Go for a field trip.
It's a challenge crossing that intersection.
Oh, yeah. Well, the traffic doesn't
No,
stop.
there's a
going
no
up.
right,
No.
when you're going west on Parkside
Racks them all.
North,
Yeah.
there's no right,
Yeah.
stop. There's a free flowing right, you only stop
Well,
at
that
that
might be
right.
there.
Bell.
I'm not sure that's gonna help.
It's really not the most ideal location to put a.
I'm not sure that's gonna help anyway, because the traffic comes down over that hill and doesn't stop.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns too, hold on.
I would think if you're putting those out, you're gonna have to put the yield pedestrians and sidewalk signs.
Apparently Bing Maps don't let you draw the little man.
No, you gotta go to Google. Google there, isn't there? Left side of the house. There it is.
So if I drop it in the right place.
Yeah.
Good job.
So those don't match up.
Yeah, they don't line up to put a crosswalk in without redoing the ramps.
So our ramp goes diagonal or something. No,
My hunch, Jim, if you put the ramp on the other side, you're gonna start collecting water in that, off that? If you put the,
You mean here?
No, the ramp has to go to the left of the pole.
right, when
And
you
line up.
start collecting water, 'cause I know we've had some of those complaints in the past too.
It looks like, to me.
It looks like there's enough slope on Park South that you wouldn't have that if the ramp was built correctly. So,
Well, I'll personally, I don't know that we wanna draw lines crooked, do we?
That's the nasty.
Or do we wanna, and can we draw lines?
Well, you couldn't, from the ramp closest to us by the pole, that's taking people diagonal through the intersection. You couldn't,
Okay.
you can't have them, because it has to be for blind people as well, so that's why it's truncated
wouldn't know
dome is
it's-
there to direct them straight. They know when they feel it that they can walk straight till they find the next dome in front of them. I don't know how they know they're walking straight, I guess they're really good
That's
at
why
it.
they're trained.
How about that little piece of,
Oh, I see.
That's a monument, that's a property corner.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like
that's
marble.
right, the sidewalk. It's a-
Yeah,
Why is that one so
A
high?
surveyor's
I
thing.
don't know,
Thinking
that
that
thing's
two
been
or
there
three of them.
forever.
surveyor's
Yeah,
block.
A marble
Yeah,
That's a
sign.
surveyor.
tripping hazard.
They're all
Yeah,
over,
trip
but
doing that.
normally they're not sticking up that high.
that's gotta be a pain, yeah,
Which is
something's
interesting
triple that.
because of where.
Can we smash that down?
We
No.
can, but it does have elevation.
This has elevation.
They're on a
Exactly.
range line, our monument's.
It gives you an
on the property
elevation
line.
and
Okay, alright.
Vertical and
That's a
horizontal.
range line back, I assume,
Yeah.
5 or 7
I
feet.
asked the
What's the
question,
range
I
line
didn't
of the monument?
Can't do it
5 feet or 7 feet?
What's
The
that?
monument back to the property line is actually 5 or 7, it's on a range line. A lot of
So
them.
it's okay to have someone trip, but it's not okay to push the monument down.
Yeah, makes sense.
You can push the monument down.
You can.
You can, yeah, we have, when we do the handicap ramp and sidewalk projects, we locate them and then go reset them for the contractor after. reset
I'm
the
just
point.
unclear of the vertical control where the top of that is some sort
Oh.
of vertical. And I don't know enough about how that works. Does that get lost in the sauce 100 years from now?
We just have to change it on
It's not
the
gonna
Borough Tote, just change the elevation of that monument,
But we really don't have a borough tote, so who would know?
just everyone here. Everyone uses GPS now, we get the elevation off satellite, so.
If we can knock it down, let's knock it down, how's that sound?
Yeah,
Well, it's not somebody's sidewalk. right?
We had to replace the sidewalk
It's
to
Bill
do it.
Parks' old
Yeah.
house, that's, Barney, she's still there? That's Barney's
No,
old.
she's a,
I never should notice it there. It's just walking the
Right, oh, yeah. She spent
There's
time.
not a ton of them, but
There used to be more, but they're
So,
slowly vanishing.
are we not making a recommendation to join in West Reading because we're putting lines into nowhere?
Well, the other two, if you put in a handicap ramp on Parkside Drive South.
Right, on the west side,
North.
Parkside, no,
On Parkside Drive
Parkside.
South.
Park South,
Park South.
Park
Parkside Drive
Road
North.
South,
Like,
at Parkside Drive North.
Yes.
Listen, I grew up kind of in that area, and if, that's a scary place to walk.
Yeah.
Because people come up over that hill at 40 miles an hour,
Yep.
especially if it's raining and or it's a little slippery up for whatever reason, leaves or ice and snow. I wish we could put a stop sign with a big sign saying there's a stop sign coming ahead, but there'll be wrecks there too, so I get that. Do we want to put the lines in now or not? I don't know what we're never gonna get the ramp in if we want to put a ramp in there in time for the crosswalk, are we?
Doesn't a crosswalk encourage people to use it?
Yeah, there's nowhere to, you go,
They
you're
may,
right there.
they may have a sense of
Well, I
security
was
if they
gonna
have a crosswalk.
Having a striped crosswalk is like having a dedicated bicycle lane, you're saying that it's safe to cross here.
Right, which it's not.
Yeah, traffic's supposed to stop. Yeah.
Why do you need it across the street there if you can walk on the other side? You know, I know there's no sidewalk there, but I can understand why they would wanna cross
Here.
here, yeah, but on, it's safer to cross on the other side, like with that hill there, like I agree with him, I've, you know, driven that road all my, I
And
don't
people
tell
don't
them.
stop there, they can
There's
turn-
no stop
they can
sign.
There's no
turn-
stop sign coming down, and I believe if you're turning right,
I can
Turn
turn
right,
right
turn
every
left, turn
day.
east, don't stop either.
You only stop if you're going straight there, it's no stop for right. I think it actually says right turn, keep rolling or something like that.
I'm more in favor of putting a dangerous intersection sign up.
Mhm,
Let's
yes.
Like a walk across signs.
Yeah,
Right.
'cause if you put
that's what they're saying, they're
a
gonna
walk
request
across,
Fresno.
across Parkside Drive, you don't get anywhere. You just go right into the grass and then,
Well, that's not our problem. We're talking about from West Reading to Wyomissing, just the half the street.
I just think it makes people think they're safe crossing there.
It doesn't, well, we don't match up, so all right, I'll make a recommendation that we don't participate.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any conversation? Any opposed? Hearing none.
I think you should go back, when you go back to
Yeah.
them, give them the concerns.
Yeah,
Where are we gonna paint the lines to? If we had if they matched up across, I could see some validity to it, but tell Dean to call me.
well, when he gets back from vacation.
All right. We got an old business already.
Yeah, and I actually have one thing for old business. Don Lurch reached out to me. You may recall he was at the January infrastructure meeting, giving the presentation on the potential State Hill Road widening. He reached out last week that the agreement with the consultant to begin designing that project has been executed and notice to proceed has been issued. And it would be for the first section from Colony Drive to the southbound 222 ramps, which is a little bit after the Greenwood Mall entrance.
With all the roundabouts.
Uh-huh.
Are they still doing all the roundabouts?
Well, this is, I would think as part of engineering it, they're gonna come out with a dollar figure total that's gonna put things on the chopping block or
What was it, $33 million or something like that?
something like that.
I will tell you that the roundabouts on 222 seem to be working. A little different area though.
Yeah, I think the problem with the roundabout, why missing at Boulevard and Reading and Penn Avenue, you have traffic coming all ways. If you have traffic not as much going one direction, that would work better than having it coming from all the directions, is the way I look at it, but.
Well, it sounds like that's not part of the first phase anyway.
No, it isn't, it isn't.
Maybe they'll figure it out by the time you get there.
So we don't feel hard later, that's for sure.
Sure is.
Okay, any other old business?